Hi, welcome back to another crochet video. Someone commented on my video asking for a beginner tips so that they can start crocheting. And I figured there must be other people out there who wants to start crocheting and still confused about all of the basics because there are a lot of different patterns, a lot of different styles of crochets out there. And in this video, I'm going to cover all of the basics. Everything you need to know before you start crocheting will be in this video. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what yarns to buy, where to start, and how to grow your skills from there. But before we start this video, I'm gonna give you a little disclaimer. Crocheting is really versatile and it's a really wide set of skills. So if you watch another video and then they give you different kinds of tips or they do it differently, then don't panic. People have different styles of crocheting and you're gonna find your own style once you get into practicing and doing it repeatedly. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my personal tips on how I started crocheting, what materials I use, and how I like doing it. It might be different for everybody, so yeah, I just want to get out there so you're not confused or anything. Okay, now we're gonna start with the ultimate guide. If you're thinking like, girl, I want to learn how to crochet, I don't want to know about materials, you are very wrong, because the materials of the yarns, hooks, and everything is just as important as your skills. If you have a really good skill in crocheting but you don't use the right materials, then your projects might not turn out the way you want it. So yeah, that's why I wrote this whole page just about materials and I'm gonna share it with you. First things first, if you want to crochet, you definitely need to get some yarns. I'm going to be covering 3 things about the yarns. The first thing is the fibers and materials, the second is the yarn weight, and the last one would be the recommended hook size. So all of those things usually is going to be written down in the packaging of the yarn, as you can see right there. Or if it's not, if you're buying this online, usually it's on the description of the product. So it's gonna be stated somewhere, okay? If not, then just ask the seller or anything like that. But you need to know about this before you buy the yarns. So the first thing we're going to talk about is about the fibers and materials. Now there's so many different kinds of yarns out there, but just for your information, I live in Indonesia and usually here there's not much options for yarns. I mean, there's a lot, but usually the materials are the same. It's usually either cotton, acrylic, or milk cotton. Not much of a wool type of yarn. So as a sample, I'm just going to talk about the most common ones, like cotton yarns, acrylic yarns, and the milk cotton. This is one of the cotton yarns that I have. This one is 100% cotton, and cotton yarns are usually not stretchy. If you make a product from cotton yarns, it's going to be structured but a little bit tight. It's not going to be able to stretch like this one. So if you want something sturdy, then cotton will be your friend. The only downside is I think that cotton yarns makes your mistakes more visible. So as a complete beginner, I wouldn't really recommend you using cotton yarns. The second most common material is acrylic yarns. Acrylic yarns are definitely more affordable and it is a lot stretchier, it's a lot slippery. So if you're crocheting with an acrylic yarn, it's going to slide on your hook pretty easily, which makes it easier for you to make your stitches. This is an example of my acrylic yarn and this is the cotton yarn. I'm not talking about the size of it, I'm just talking about like, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but this is definitely stretchier than this one. So as a beginner, people usually start with acrylic yarns, but for me personally, I start with milk cotton yarns. This is one of the milk cotton yarns that I use in my very early days of crocheting. So milk cotton yarns is a blend of milk fibers and cotton fibers. Sometimes it's a blend of cotton and acrylic, so basically it has a mix of both of the materials. It's not that stretchy like acrylic yarns, but it's also not that hard to work with like cotton yarns. So it's right in the middle and I like this. So if you're a complete beginner, I would recommend starting from one of these 3 yarns. I think it's the most forgiving yarn out of all the others. There are still like different kinds of velvet yarns, chenille yarns, and like macrame yarns. Don't start with that. Oh, and do not start with black yarn. Let me tell you, it's going to stress you out. So start with something brighter, like just get yourself a bright colored yarn. And if you don't know where to find all these yarns, I have an affiliate link on somewhere in this video. I don't know where it's gonna show up, but I have links to where you should buy the yarns. I'm gonna get a few % of commissions, but it's up to you. If you want to buy from other places, then I don't mind. Although another thing to keep in mind is that if you're buying yarns from 2 different stores for one project, like if you ran out of this and then you decided to buy another cotton yarn from another store, please look at the blends. Like, I don't know if you can see this, but for this milk cotton yarns, it's 60% cotton and 40% milk fibers, but people sell different kinds of milk cotton yarns. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 70-30. So pay attention on that because sometimes it could make your project a little bit wonky because the fibers are different. So yeah, again, it's usually on the packaging or in the description box. So yeah, just take a look at it. The next thing we're going to talk about is yarn weight. So as you can see, my milk cotton yarn is in weight 3, which is quite a light weight. Usually weight 1 until 3 is considered light, and then 4 and 5 is considered medium, and then so on. Okay, you might be thinking, why do I need to think about these stuffs? So it is important, if you see a tutorial and then someone is using a weight 3 yarn and you're using a weight 2 yarn, then you might need more yarns than her, because the less weight you use, the size of the yarn is going to be smaller. So for the same size of project, you're gonna need more yarns. And then it also affects how your products drape. So for this poncho, I use a very light yarn so that it can flow and drape like this. But if you're using a very thick yarn, then it's probably not going to drape as much, like this. This is a lot thicker yarns than this one. So as you can see, it's a different kind of consistency. A rookie mistake that I used to make is thinking that weight and ply is the same thing. It is not. The weight of the yarn is how thick your yarn is, and ply is how much tiny strands of yarns is twisted into making this one single strand, if that makes sense. Like here, this is a 5-ply yarn. So there is 5 little strands that are twisted together to make this yarn. And then for this one, it's an 8-ply acrylic yarn, so that means there's going to be 8 little strands twisted for this yarn. And usually it does correlate to each other. Sometimes the less ply means that the yarn is going to be thinner, but it is actually 2 different things. So basically, if you're making wearables and you want it to drape nicely, you want it to be flowy, then go for a thinner yarn, like lighter weight yarn, I mean. But if you're making like amigurumis or like something that you want it to be structured and stiff and warm, then go for a heavier weight yarn. I hope that makes sense. Okay, the last thing about yarns, you're also gonna need to see the recommended hook size. It's also in the packaging. So as you can see right here, it is 4.5 until 5.5 millimeter hook. There's also a knitting recommendation over here. And again, why do you need to think about this? Because the hook size would determine the size of your stitches as well. So the bigger the hook that you use, your stitches are going to be more loose and it's going to have a gap between each other. And the smaller the hook, that means your stitches are going to be neater and tighter. But again, it's all about what you're making. So I have this 2 rectangle-ish project to compare. This one, I use the recommended size hook that is on the yarn labels. And as you can see, the stitches are pretty tight. You can't really pull this apart. But for this one, I'm using a larger size hook. And please ignore this like huge squares. This is a mesh stitch. It's not the same as this one. Look at the one in the middle. Like you can pull this apart and this is the same exact stitch. It's a double crochet. If you're making like amigurumis or a bag, I definitely say that you need to use the recommended size hook or even smaller than that, because you want it to be tight and like it's not gonna look cute if you have like little spaces. I mean, it depends on the projects again, but yeah, you get the point. Anyways, talking about hooks, there's also different kinds of hooks that you can use. This is a metal hook. Usually people start with this because this is definitely more affordable and it's light, but I do feel like this is going to hurt your fingers when you're doing crochet for a long time. So I invested in a plastic grip hook. This feels a lot better when you crochet, but still this is not like that thick of a grip. There are a lot of types of hooks like this one. This would feel so good on your hands because it is designed to, so that you can grip it nicely and it's not going to hurt your wrist or your fingers, but it's definitely a little bit more pricey. So if you're just starting out, I'd recommend using either one of these because like you don't even know if you're gonna stay in this hobby for long. Yeah, just invest in something simple. You don't want to invest in something too expensive and then force yourself to stay in this hobby because you spend a lot of money on it. And then in crocheting, there are 2 most common ways of holding your hook. The first one is the knife grip and the second one is the pencil grip. There are no correct ways. You can use whatever you want, or even you can make up your own style. Some creators do that and it's fine. As long as it's comfortable, as long as you can crochet well, then it's fine. It's more important to keep the tension of the yarn rather than how you hold the hook, because yeah, it doesn't really matter. I personally use the knife grip because I started with that and I'm already comfortable with that. People say using the pencil grip is going to be more forgiving in your wrist, but I can't do this. Like, this is not working for me. My yarns are always stuck in the hook, so I'm gonna stick to using the knife grip. And then the last few materials that you're definitely gonna need is needles and also stitch markers. For my needles, I have this metal and plastic one, but if I could turn back time and invest in something different, I would buy this kind of needle. I tried my cousin's needle, something like this, and it's a lot easier to use. So definitely buy this one rather than this straight needle. You're gonna need that to weave in all the extra yarns that you have, or to connect two panels together, you're gonna need a needle. And then stitch markers. This will be your best friend if you're a beginner because you're gonna lose a lot of stitches, and this will help you keep track of how many stitches and which one is the first and end stitch, something like that. Now that we got all the materials covered, you should have a pretty good picture of what to look for and where to buy it. So, consider we have all the materials. Where do we start? Personally, in my experience, I jumped straight into projects, so I just learned by doing the projects, and I feel like that's okay too. But if you're still not confident in doing a project, then you can do a gauge swatch like this one. You can make it square or rectangle, and just by making these, you're gonna see the progress in your tensions, because when you're starting off, it might not look like this. It might be wiggly on the sides, or it's going to look like weird. It's fine, okay? Tension practice is a thing. You need to do it over and over again before you can be consistent in your tensions, and that is the most important thing in crochet, in my opinion. So just start by practicing making squares. You could look up a lot of tutorials online. There's a lot of different stitches. So make one square with single crochets, and then double crochets, treble crochets, mesh stitch, whatever you want. Once you get the hang of it, you could start looking for projects that you want. Usually there's two groups of crocheters, like someone who's doing wearables and bags and everything like that, that's going to start with slip stitches, or someone that's doing amigurumis and those little dolls that's going to start with a magic ring. So you can do either way. Find your niche and which one you like. Try out everything and decide which one you're going to go forward with. Or you can do both. But don't beat yourself up if you're not making something beautiful in your first few projects, because the goal is not that. The goal is practicing tension, practicing different kinds of stitches, and trying to see how you can incorporate the things you learn in that one project into other projects in the future. And you should definitely start with small projects, because once you finish one project, it's going to build your confidence and you're gonna be excited to start a new one rather than starting in one big project and you're maybe not gonna finish it. But that's just my tips, so you can do whatever you want. So I think that is it for today's Crochet 101 tips. I know this is a very beginner info because it's like only covering materials, but I don't want to overwhelm you with information and you're gonna get confused because there's a lot of different things you can learn in crochets. So if you want me to cover other things, maybe the more intermediate type of information, you can comment down below and I will try and make a video for that. Finally, to close out this video, I just want to say that crocheting is not about perfection. It's all about being able to create something out of your vision with your own hands. Like, how amazing would that be? Even me, I'm still working towards that, like creating something just out of my vision and not looking at someone else's patterns. That's the end goal for me. Your goal might be something else, but crocheting is definitely worth the time to learn. I hope this video motivates you to start crocheting, and I'll see you guys in my next crochet videos. Bye!